Okay, I'd like to talk about assignment number 4 from chapter number 4. This is going to be an answer to a question that was posed to me yesterday. The assignment, of course, was due today, so there was nothing that I could do to help you through your problem because you waited so long to ask the question. In the future, begin working on your assignments as quickly as you can so that if you do have a question, you can ask me and I can get an answer to you in time for you to do something about it. All right, so what does the assignment number 4 say? Well, on page 253 it says 4, consider the equation ax squared plus b is equal to 0. And then it makes some points. If b divided by a is less than 0, then this equation has two solutions. The solutions are, and it gives a couple of formulas. The next point that it makes is if b divided by a is equal to 0, then there's only one solution, that's x equals 0. The next point it says if b divided by a is greater than 0, this equation has no real number solutions. And then finally it says write a program to have the user input any numbers for the coefficients a and b for this equation, and if a is equal to 0, terminate the program, otherwise solve the equation. Alright, so how do you do this in Python, especially if you don't know Python, right? How do you do it? Well, the very first step is to go ahead and create comment fields with respect to what it is that you plan to do. So I did. The file is brodersen_a4.python. It's in a subdirectory called brodersen_a4. Okay. It says that this program solves a, and x squared is x times x, so we have a times x plus b is equal to 0. Okay. So if you're given a and b, then obviously you're solving for x. So I'm going to implement conditions because that's what it told me to do basically, and one of the first conditions that it mentions is b divided by a has to be greater than 0. It also says that if a is equal to 0 you have to deal with something, and if b is equal to 0 you get to deal with something, and it gives us some ideas what that's all about. Okay, so these are here to kind of get me to focus basically. Alright, so now comes the whole process of actually writing the Python code. I'm going to begin right off the bat by I created a comment that said modules because I'm going to be creating modules. It's inescapable in this program. Okay, well actually you can probably write it without modules, but modules are convenient and we'll see why in a second. Alright, but I will say that I'm going to create a main module. Whoops, I'm not going to comment it. I'll just call it comment main module. And then it's going to say define function main, just like so. Remembering my colon so that I can begin, I'm going to say next I'll go input. I will go processing. And then I'm going to say output. Give it a little extra space between them here. Alright, the input's pretty straightforward. I want to send a message out to my user that basically says print this program solves for x of, and then I put in the equation, right? And then I put down a. I want to turn whatever I get into a floating point number. Remember, this is the casting thing we were talking about before. And I'm going to say input, please enter my any non-zero number for a. Input, please enter b. Let's say that we failed to do that, which has been actually brought up in earlier videos, but it doesn't hurt to go through a little bit of debugging in the process. Alright, I'll just get rid of, well, I'll get rid of that, get rid of that. So now we're just inputting the number, right? Input the number here, and then I'm going to, just for the fun of it, run a quick test, and I'm going to say print a times b. I don't really care what the formula is, I just want to see if I can do something with the two variables that I just inputted. Do my handy dandy save, and I'm going to go ahead and run the program, and it comes back and it says In module 9, clear is not defined. Okay, let's try and, whoops, I'm running the Python shell instead of the actual program. Sorry guys. Run the module, and it comes back and it says Python line 1 in module clear is not defined, restart. It did not do a print or anything. What did I do wrong, you guys? Oh, I know what it is. I forgot to call the module, right? I created one called main, but then I never bothered to call it. So we'll go here, call the main, and I'll just say main, just like so. All right, handy dandy save. Come down here, run the module. There we go. Program solves. Any number for A, I'll pop it in there. Any number for B, I'll pop it in there, and it comes back and it crashes. And it crashes because down here, if you read through all of this, eventually you run into something that makes sense. Line 25 in main, print A times B, type error. Can't multiply a sequence of non-integer types. It's looking, it thinks that it's a string, right? It knows that these two guys are currently a string. As we learned earlier in Python, all inputs are strings, so we have to turn that thing into a float. There are two ways of doing this. You can rename the variable A to A string, B to B string, and then later cast it into a float, or you can cast it right now. And what do I mean by that? To cast into a float means to take whatever you have and force it to be a floating point value. And the way that we do that in Python is with this, F-L-O-A-T, float. And then we come over here and we complete that. Come over here, float. And we complete that, and we do our handy dandy save, and we run the module, input A, and I'm going to go 2, and a 2 for B, and it prints back 4.0. So we know now that the input is being accepted, that we can do work on the input. So now I can get rid of this, all right? So those of you who are asking, well, how do you program in Python? Guess what, folks? It's experimentation. As we work through this lecture, you're going to see me make a lot of errors. Part of it is different, most of it's going to be deliberate, but some of it's going to be accidental because I'm going to be using a syntax that's from another computer language. For example, when I originally did this, I put the word float completely in parentheses. And then I did input without any parentheses, and of course it crashed. And the reason that I did it that way is because that's how it's done in a different language. So you run experiments. And if you can't figure it out by running an experiment, then what you do is you open up a handy dandy browser, okay? And I'm going to do that. I'm going to open a new browser window, which currently is completely obliterated the field of view. So we're going to come down here, and I'll say Python cast to float, like that. And what it's going to do is it's going to give us some example. How can I force division to be floating point? Interesting float int casting, built-in types, documentation, how to convert an integer to a float. All of these things will help you out. Also, there is the website that I mentioned in my syllabus. So you can go there and watch those videos and learn how to do this as well. Okay, so at any rate, there's the input. Very, very happy with the way that it is running. Okay, and since I'm already 8 minutes and 51 seconds down the road on this lecture, I'm going to go ahead and pause this video or stop this video and then go on to the next video. Okay.